Welcome to HIT Podcast, H.I.T, Human Resources, Insurance, and Technology. I'm your host, Toby Kennedy. As we do every week, we are dropping in your feed on Tuesdays with what I hope are bite-sized, digestible, well-curated conversations going on in the space. This is part 3 of a 3-part series with Spencer Smith. If you missed parts 1 or part 2, go back a week or two, check it out. We had a wonderful conversation about all things self-funded, stop-loss, captives, and without any further ado, this week's episode, which is brought to you by Montage Insurance Solutions, will pick up where we left off with Spencer Smith and get into things like point solution vendors, where we go in the future, all sorts of cool stuff. Check out the episode. We pick up where we left off. You were just about to go down the cost containment road, and I love that because I think that is part of the ecosystem. That's a super crucial next part that I want to touch on, which is, okay, now Mr. or Mrs. Employer, you're going to own the claims. We've done a great job in whether it's just a good self-funded arrangement or it's the captive or it's Pareto specifically, but we've done a good job on your stop loss risk. We've done a good job on that contract language. We've done a good job mitigating that. There is still all of your ongoing claims and babies and diabetes and cancers and all those things going on. Now that we've really locked down the stop loss, let's see what we can't do to put some downward pressure on the 65% of your cost, which is just your ongoing claims, because you're not in the health insurance game anymore. You're in the health care game and you're paying for this stuff. And so there are wise, proven strategies and companies that fold into your ecosystem and say, when you've got this specific type of claim or rash of claims, we do the following steps. And by doing those, instead of it costing X, it ends up costing Y, where Y is less than X. So talk to me a little bit about cost containment.
Sure. Well, you can think about your stop loss insurance as a function of the risk pool itself. So the better you do at controlling costs over time, the better your stop loss is going to perform, which then comes back as better renewals. And think about a positive flywheel that gets created. But as we continue to scale and get bigger, and I think we'll probably bring 900 to 1,000 new groups on this year. So as we get bigger, more and more entities come to us and say, we want you to have access to our amazing dialysis carve-out, as an example. Or we want to have this network of direct contracts across the country for MRIs and outpatient procedures, which are, predetermined, they're cheaper, and we waive the member out of pocket. So we can go into individual solutions, but think about it as simply just a chassis where you keep bolting on better and better parts so that the whole thing performs better over time. But because we're so big, we help smaller employers get access to things that they typically would not get. They would not even be offered to them. And if they were, they would not be offered at the wholesale sort of
For
price.
example, and I don't mean to derail us already, but like your mental health resources, your telehealth resources, they're literally not available to smaller employers. Typically.
Yeah. And we have a really cool behavioral health one coming out for 1/1 that is literally not available for groups under 1,000 except through us, right? And so you look at like as it continues to get bigger, it actually gets better too, which is kind of crazy to think. That's a very rare combination of outcomes. And so I just think I look forward to the future, and we could talk about the future a little bit, but that's the basic value prop of the captive. Eliminate volatility, then help you control the costs. And if you do it well, which Pareto has done, if you do it well, then obviously the sky is the limit for what you could do.
And the term that people throw around a lot is something called a point solution vendor, right? And when we talk about point solutions, we're saying, again, within a specific ailment. So there's things like musculoskeletal. Yeah. There's things like diabetes management, right? We're on the MSK stuff, the musculoskeletal, they say, listen, left completely unchecked, these employees would have a higher propensity to just go get a back surgery, which number one, does not work all the time at all. Like, I think it's like half the time. Number two, maybe resurgeries, reinfections, all sorts of different things where it's like, well, what if in X amount of cases, physical therapy would have been the right shout, right? Or a hip surgery instead of doing that, right? And I'll give it my own example. I tore my ACL and, in my talks with the doctor, they said, listen, in order to make post-op as effective as possible, you need to do prehab anyways. You need to do a lot of strengthening and building up of the muscles anyways. So let's see if we can't do a good prehab regimen and get you to a point where is your knee functioning well enough anyways with just the squats and lunges so that we don't need to cut into you. And that's exactly what happened for me, right? Unfortunately, I probably won't get the call up from the men's national team anymore, at the next World Cup, but I can function. I can play soccer with my kids. I can do everything I need to do.
Yeah.
and didn't need the surgery, right? So that I think is the kind of some of the stories behind the point solution vendors that get to come in and say, up. We see all your claims and we get a feed. And when the claims are of a certain nature, there's a prior authorization for a certain medicine or surgery or claim or whatever. Let's engage with one of our professionals that can help navigate the care journey for that employee in ways that will not be less effective, will not be cheaping out, but will be more effective for the plan and also a positive, if not better, result for the member.
Yeah, and these things are all optional but incentivized. So what I mean is you can choose any of them, you can choose none of them. But if you do choose them, then you're going to get stop loss decrements as a result of it because a stop loss carrier knows it's going to perform well. And so
Right.
there's a reason why those things exist. And what it's really driving at is can we get actual true consumerism in healthcare, not cost shifting more to the employee,
Right.
but helping them navigate and have better solutions at their disposal, which often leads to lower costs for them or waiving of their cost because
Right.
they're making better choices, but you give them the tools that facilitate that better choice. And that's where I think the market's going. That's where I think, what might segue into in a minute. But
Yeah.
that I think the market needs to go is transparency, easy access, and easy navigation of this very complex healthcare system.
Yeah. And as you said, the levers for that sometimes is not only an affirmative outreach from a healthcare navigator, but also something like a disappearing deductible. For example, hey, Mr. Miss Employee, you've traditionally got $1,000 deductible, and it is your choice. You can get this procedure, or this lab work, or this X claim done at whatever facility you want. However, I want you to know if you get it done at this freestanding facility or with this doctor, whatever, no deductible, right? So we're doing a little bit to say to the employee, you have your own choice, Mr. Miss Employee, because just like the employer, hey, the employer had a choice to opt in or not. The employer did. And what the employer has opted into is the employee now gets to opt in or not. But we're trying to steer you via the plan design and say, hey, Mr. Miss Employee, if you want to get your drug from here or your surgery from there or your treatment from here, it'll be no deductible, whereas your plan design has that $1,000 deductible sort of a thing.
When it dispels the misconception that you have to increase or the reason you see increasing costs is because you make the plan design worse. So that's what most not self-insured, but fully insured employers have to do.
Right.
And so we're saying, no, you can make the benefit experience better for your employees and at the same time, literally drive down the overall costs as well.
And you mentioned kind of that's where you think we need to go. And I kind of want to get out on a question that I just personally am so, burning to know the answer of, which is on a lot of your podcasts, you accumulate an answer from lots of different people where you ask them, where do you think we're going? Where do you see healthcare in 2 years, 5 years? Where do you think kind of we need to go? And so you've done a lot of future meditating. You've done a lot of future educating. You've done a lot of kind of looking into your crystal ball, which makes it slightly clearer than the rest of ours. I'm just so curious about your thoughts on where healthcare is going in the future, exciting stuff, things that really jazz you up.
Well, there's a handful of like recurring answers when I get to that point on the episode, and we do finish with this conversation. Usually they revolve around some form of extended full transparency, whether that's transparency in the cost of medication, transparency in the cost of what it's going to be for a member to go to X facility or X hospital. I think transparency movement, that's already in full swing. We just need the data to be cleaned up so it's readable and accessible to individuals and it's easy to digest. What I actually do think is going to happen, there's two like big things I think are going to happen. I think the value of a traditional insurance network perhaps goes away or at the very least dilutes in its value proposition. So I have Aetna, I have Blue Cross, I have Cigna, whatever. I think all of those have so much overlap in the network, the doctors within that network, and they have this huge variance in reimbursement rates for the exact same procedure in the exact same location that they're illogical. And that's ultimately what the big carriers are selling is their network in their discounts. So I think most people understand that those things don't really have the same value as they originally had. And so what you'll likely see replaced with is high performing narrow networks, direct contracts, open source direct contracts, et cetera, where employers don't have to worry about who their carrier is and employees don't have to worry about is it in network or out of network. They just know the cost ahead of time. And that will be sort of facilitated by advancing of technology. And I think impetus from employees to demand that. And the last one, to stay on the subject of tech, which I know you probably like, dude, wearables, whether it's your Aura rings, whether it's your CGMs. I just saw a cool technology I highlighted on my podcast last week, which will scan your face and tell you all sorts of risks that you have just by reading your face for 30 seconds. I think the democratization, if you will, of information about your body in real time that can be fed to doctors or interested stakeholders to help you navigate the healthcare system, that's going to unlock all sorts of preventative steps in the healthcare system that will solve many of the problems I think that we're experiencing today.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of like reading a balance sheet where, and maybe we're getting a little bit too business wonky here, but like if you show me one individual balance sheet, you're not really showing me much about a company. I need to know the trend. I need to know multi-months. I need to know quarter over quarter. I need to know 52-week projections, right? I need to know more about where it's going. And to bring the analogy full circle, I was talking to a guy the other day about his Aura ring, and he said it's less about me necessarily needing this for now, but I want to start to capture and catalog my individual data. Because if I show up to the doctor 2 years from now or 3 years from now, and he does some version of a workup, the doctor does some version of a workup, I might have various things that fall within normal ranges. And so it's evidently no concern. But what if you had a couple of years of data and you saw it was moving and it was moving in the wrong direction? And so, yeah, you're showing up at the edge of normal and you think it's normal, but it's been going down over time. Now that might flag as a problem. And the only way to know that is to start capturing the data, is the wearables, is moving some of the stuff in from a tech standpoint. So you can start to kind of catalog trends within your own body as well, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's the longitudinal use of data over time. You know, I talked to Signos recently. Their CGM is the goal. Let's track it over a year or 2 years, and let's use repeated.
Can you define CGM?
What's that?
CGM, you use that.
Yeah. So a continuous glucose monitor. It's for folks that, whether or not you actually are pre-diabetic or diabetic, it just gives you an idea of what's going on with your blood sugar levels throughout the day and how your body responds to certain foods and activity. But that's great if you wear it for 2 weeks. You'll have a data point to go on. But if you wear it for 2 months or 2 years, how much better is that information to feed to your doctor to let them know truly what's going on or what's trending over time? And that's one example of one data point where I think we're going to see a lot more of those not only be collected, but put into a centralized platform where now we have a total digital picture of who we are as human beings and our health status, if you will. Give that over to your primary care physician. Let them help you triage it. Be more intentional about the tests, recommendations of lifestyle changes. I think all of those things were on the cusp of that being very normal. And then you as an individual are now empowered to control your actual health and not wait for a doctor to try to fix you after the fact.
I think individualized care is the single most exciting part of the future for me. Maybe we'll get out kind of on this topic, but on the pharmacy piece, right? Oh. So I know you've had conversations about pharmacogenomics and about like using your DNA so that we're doing a little bit less guess and check in some of the kind of drugs that you take. And I think that piece of healthcare is so rad. Like we're finally at a spot with AI that we can ingest big data and do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, on the subject of pharmacogenomics, I had a friend who actually shared a private conversation between his brother and his doctor with his brother's blessing. Been dealing with mental health challenges for like 7 years of his life, dealing with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and every medication that was being prescribed to him was guess and check. Try this. We'll see what happens. Oh, I feel sleepy. Now I feel tired. Now I feel erratic. And they kept changing the medication with trial and error. Then he finally did a pharmacogenomics test. The doctor, who then started to help with his psychiatry, knew how to read it and go, you know what? You should have been on none of those drugs based on your DNA and your genes. This is the drug for you. And he told me his brother was like crying after the couple of weeks because he finally felt like himself again. Yeah. It was just the precision of the application of medicine in the hands of the right doctor, hopefully will change the trajectory of his life now. But it took many, many years of bad recommendations to get to that point. The technology finally caught up to it.
Because the way they have to do it, and it makes sense when you're completely shooting blind, is, hey, over 1 million random people, this one works best 60% of the time. Try this.
Yeah.
No, didn't work for me. All right, well, this other one works best, I guess, in another 12% of cases. Try this one next. Okay, no, that didn't work for me. It's like you get down and maybe you're the guy that the 1%er, where it's just like, I, of all the different drugs, needed this one. But you're not going to get that. And it would be irresponsible of a doctor to blindly prescribe you the one that only works for 1% of the people. Obviously, you wouldn't do that. Of course, you start with the larger numbers because we didn't used to have data. But now we're getting to the point where we can read the individual human being, crunch that data, and say, I know what makes you to a molecular level, and I know what makes these various drugs them to a molecular level, and we can match better now. Wow.
Boom, mic drop.
Mic drop. Wow, that's a great place to get out. Yeah, thank you, man. I cannot thank you enough. This has been such a fun series for us, and thank you so much, Spencer Smith. Shout out. How can people find you, get a hold of you? Self-Funded with Spencer Smith, the world's greatest health insurance podcast. We're just fighting to be, all the rest of us are fighting to be number 2, bro.
I think you have to type that entire thing you just said into Google and you'll find it.
Into a lower third, yeah.
Yeah, Self-Funded with Spencer, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Spencer Smith, and I have the acronym CSFS behind my name in case there's other Spencer Smiths. Happy to chat, happy to answer any questions. Hope you follow the show. And again, I just appreciate you having me on, man. This has been a really, really good time.
Yeah, and shout out to Pareto Health, your employer, who is the largest captive in the country and has a slew of tremendous people. Kaylee, who we work with, was like, oh my God, you and Spencer are going to break the internet. And I was like, Kaylee, yeah, I was like, listen, number one, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift just got engaged, so the internet's already broken. Number two, I don't think a health insurance podcast is going to put a dent in some of that stuff.
If we had an insurance internet, maybe we'll break the insurance.
Yeah. But if you get specific enough, anyone could be the Joe Rogan of, right? Like, I'm the Joe Rogan of health insurance podcast out of Calabasas. Come on, dude.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not going to deny you that claim for sure.
My man. Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for watching. That's all the time we have. We appreciate you. Thank you to our sponsors, Rula, TrueHue, Excel Health, Montage Insurance Solutions, the guys that keep the light on. Thank you to Pareto Health for letting us borrow Spencer for an hour. Thank you to the Spencer Smith, Self-Funded with Spencer podcast. We're blessed to be here. We watch the numbers go up every week. We appreciate you guys. Join us next week. Join us every week. And until next week, make this the best week yet.